Hi, good morning. I have Pat Hersey here again today, and we want to do some more talking about plastics. So, Pat, today, could you tell us, give us some information about microplastics? What are they?
Okay, first, microplastic can be defined by size and primary or secondary. So by size, think of it as smaller than the head of a pencil eraser, but bigger than the little nub on a Lego. So in between that is what they define as a microplastic, less than 5 millimeters. And so when plastic breaks down and it breaks down that small, it's called a microplastic. And as far as the primary and secondary, a common primary microplastic that people don't think of is glitter.
Oh, interesting.
Mhm. So one of the first things that's an easy thing that is unnecessary for life is glitter, and that would be a powerful way that you can stop using reducing microplastics right there. And of course, the other type of microplastic is when large pieces of plastic break up into smaller pieces and turn into microplastics.
Well, as far as glitter, being a mom of two, I feel confident that I could find a whole bunch of moms that would be happy
Yes.
to see glitter go away, right? Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So now that we have the definition, talk to us about some of the implications of microplastic on human health.
Okay. Well, first of all, we are living in a alphabet soup of chemicals, unfortunately. And so I could talk all day on all the many additives they put into plastic for various reasons. But for the scope of this interview, I will just talk about BPA and phthalates, which
Okay.
are more than enough. But flame retardants is another one that is an all plastic, which is another endocrine disruptor. So those two plastics, first of all, BPA is a plastic that's used to harden plastic to make it harder. And it also can be used as a lining in cans to minimize rust in cans. BPA is also found on the receipts of any cash register receipt.
Interesting.
You touch that and it almost has a waxy feel
Yeah.
to it. That's BPA. So that is one thing that's found in many plastics. And then there is phthalates, which is found in that plastic additive is used to soften plastic. So think of your rubber ducky is phthalates. Think of your shower curtain. When you open that up, phthalates is also a fragrance binder. So that's that smell that you get, that new car smell, phthalates. Nail polish, phthalates. So any additive on a bottle that has the ingredients that says fragrance on it, that means phthalates. So both of these are major endocrine disruptors. So the endocrine system is this wonderfully balanced system in your body that releases the hormones that literally makes people who they are. It is necessary for literally every action in your body, but it needs to be in a very delicate balance. To make a girl and a boy, you need both the estrogen and progesterone, testosterone. And so what it does is you need that balance to be a perfect person. And so BPA is chemically structured very similar to estrogen. So when estrogen is coming through, let's say to the placenta of a newborn baby, estrogen is coming through and the body says, okay, you can go through. But so this BPA comes through, it's very similar to estrogen. So it says, okay, go through, but then it interrupts the balance of the estrogen. And so that is actually, newest studies are coming out all the time now, which is actually showing that half of the babies born today will actually have infertility problems. And some people joke, says, oh, well, there's too many people anyway. But there's all species that have phthalates in them too, and they don't have infertility issues that they'll have to deal with. So we could possibly lose whole ecosystems because of this. So that's how incredibly serious it is. The whole issue with the microplastics that are now being found in placentas. It's these are the placenta is the lifeline for the baby. All the nutrients go through that. So if there's blockage in any way, and granted, they don't know because it's so hard to do studies on these situations. So many studies have to go, but just logically thinking, this can't be good. There is a group called Project Tender who did a study on phthalates and found it is damaging the development of babies' brains. And they are calling for the immediate ban of phthalates.
So how do we know that the phthalates are in particular products? How do they then get into the human body?
We are eating it, we are breathing it, it's in the dust in your house. So even if you have a special filter for your water to get rid of any additives, if you leave that glass out, the dust that has plastic in it can go into your glass.
So when you talked about microplastics, you said they could be about the size of a nub on a piece of Lego, but they could even be smaller than that, correct?
That's actually called nanoplastics.
Nanoplastics. Okay.
So
nanoplastics are smaller than microplastics.
Exactly. Okay. That's almost like you need a microscope.
Right.
Size.
So one of the questions that I've had and I've wanted to look into is there's a big push, and I know that you and I have talked about this, to stop using plastics in your kitchen. So stop using plastics containers for storing food and things like this. Is this a concern because of nanoplastics? Like when we wash our plastic containers in the dishwasher and thing, are they breaking down and then coating our other dishes? Is that the crux of the problem?
Right, that's the problem. Like some people used to keep spaghetti sauce, for example, in plastic containers, and then you get that spaghetti sauce ring that you just can't get out of the plastic container.
Yes.
So if the spaghetti sauce can get into the plastic, why don't you think the plastic can't get into the spaghetti sauce? So it's that easy. And it's not plastic, and the additives are not chemically bound. I compare it to spaghetti and sauce. The spaghetti is the plastic, and the sauce is all the additives. So it breaks up very easily. And what's also frightening about microplastics is once it gets into the water and it breaks up, it is what they call hydrophobic. So it doesn't like water. So it pushes away from water. Well, the other thing that also is hydrophobic is toxic chemicals like BPA, POPs, PCB. So they are attracted to each other since they both don't like water. So those microplastics that the fish eat, that we end up eating, don't just get plastic microplastics, but they also get all those toxic chemicals that are attached to those microplastics. So,
and so here's where we get the comment where people say we eat about a credit card's worth of plastic per week or something.
Exactly.
I wasn't sure what the time frame was, but any time frame is bad.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got me thinking about this because I grew up with Tupperware, Rubbermaid. We call all plastic containers Tupperware in my house. That's just what we call them. So it's really gotten me thinking about how we store our foods and how we freeze them and everything. Glass and metal, stainless steel are looking to be better, far better alternatives to using the plastic.
Right.
What about, so while we're on that topic, what about cold storage of foods? For instance, what about if I cut up vegetables or fruit and just store them in plastic containers? Are we still concerned, or is it only when there's heat applied?
Well, heat makes them leach easier.
Okay.
So I try to get rid of all plastic in my kitchen. I think that is the safest way to go. I would say that, again, it's not chemically bound. So even if it's in cold, it can leach. And especially if it's old and it starts peeling away, that is something you definitely want to not use food for.
So when we are ingesting these plastics, you talked about endocrine disruption. What are some other implications? For instance, I've read some things about wildlife. Birds are ingesting plastics, turtles are ingesting plastics, and basically it's filling them up so they are lacking the ability to get the nutrients that they need.
Mhm.
What other sort of health implications do we have for humans?
Oh, um, diabetes, obesity, with the estrogen imbalance, women tend to go into puberty earlier, and men tend to have infertility issues, and women have infertility issues. And so that infertility issues is actually related to your overall health. They've found studies that said that people who have infertility issues have a shorter lifespan. So these are all issues. It can be related to cancer. I mean, there's the microplastics name a disease and it can be impacted by that. The birds, what they found at a recent study on seabirds is that, they all saw the pictures of the dead birds with all this plastic in their gut. However, they found birds that looked perfectly healthy that were flying around and they just did blood work. They didn't even see what was actually in their stomach, but through blood work, they could tell there was plastic in them. And that small amount of plastic was impacting their kidneys, their livers, their lungs. So even though they looked still fine, they were being negatively impacted.
Wow. This is a lot to take in.
It is.
What I'd like to finish up with is what are some things we can do individually to reduce our exposure to microplastics and nanoplastics? Let's give a couple of tips. We talked about changing out the containers that we're using in our kitchens. So switching to glass and stainless steel metal is a good way to go. What can you think of another thing that people could do to minimize their exposure?
Well, nobody likes to hear this, but to clean more, dust more,
Okay.
because unfortunately, it's even in the dust that we have in our house now. Open
Right.
your windows, have ventilation, um, but to just minimize your contact with plastic at all cost. I mean, and related to that is the BPA free. What they find is that all they do is they substitute for another form of BPA. So instead of BPA, the chemical is BPS is the most popular alternative now. Studies find that it's just as bad, if not worse, and has endocrine disruptor quantities in that. So again, like you said, the glass, the stainless steel, that's really the way we have to go to make a dent in this.
Awesome. Well, Pat, thank you so much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. And I will provide links in the descriptions for this video for the Less Plastic Please, the site that you run. And if people are watching on the YouTubes, please make sure to click the like button and subscribe to this so that you can get future updates. Pat, thank you again. And I look forward to having another interview with you soon. I'm loving everything that we're learning from you.
Oh, well, great. Well, thank you. You do a great job, Paula.
Thank you.